Welcome to This Week in Princeton Vikings Sports here in ESP Media, powered by Sidearm Sports and VikeNation.org. I'm Jason Grefer, and we are once again joined by Princeton Athletic Director Joe Roberts. Joe, first of all, thank you for your time, and how are you and your family holding up during this interesting time we're in?
You know, Jason, first and foremost, it's great to talk to you guys again. It's been a while. We are doing well. Everyone is, working this new normal, if you will, working to make sure that we have, a regular routine. My wife has done an impeccable job of that, being in education like she is. I think that's been great. The kids, this is kind of amazing time for us because they're so in tune with what goes on from a technology standpoint, and virtual learning and online learning it's almost part of what we do inside a classroom on a day-to-day basis as you move into the 21st century and beyond. But, we're doing okay. I think the hardest part right now for us is not having the activities after school. I shared this with a couple other ADs this past week. We all can work from remote nowadays. We have the tools in place with laptops and tablets and cell phones and what have you. And this whole new technology, whether it's Zoom or Google Hangout or whatever the case may be, it is absolutely incredible. But not being able to have the interaction with our coaches and our student athletes and not having the events, that's been the hurdle for us to get through. That day-to-day contact is what we're really missing.
And I think you're not alone in that. Everybody's kind of trying to find a way to get some of that in some shape or fashion. Last time we talked, we were kind of putting a bow on the winter season and starting to think about what we were going to see during the springtime for your in Vike Nation. And obviously that's been put on hold. But let's go back to when everything was really kind of, for lack of a better phrase, ramping up with COVID-19 and everything that was happening with it and the way it was spreading. While everybody was still together, while everybody was still in school, take us back through that and what the vibe was, the discussions were in and around Princeton High School.
Well, the vibe was we were really starting to look forward to that warm weather and getting outside. We had ended on a not so high note with boys and girls basketball and taking two tough losses there in the district semis, which was just tough to watch our kids battle through that process. However, Antoine Allen qualifying for the state finals in wrestling, that was a really nice boost to the adrenaline for us, and we were looking to carry that momentum up to the Schottenstein Center that weekend and see what we could pull out of our hat as far as Vike Nation wrestling goes. And then at the same time, baseball and softball and tennis and track and field, they were all heading outside, and we were getting going there. And then you could watch what the off-season sports, the fall sports, were starting to do. Soccer and volleyball and football were all going through off-season conditioning. We had broken ground in the number of participants. I think it was 35 boys that had signed up and expressed interest in lacrosse. So we had club boys and girls lacrosse that were kicking off the ground, the girls program in its second year, and we were going to give it a go with the boys program at a club level this spring as well. And all of that was just kind of gearing up. And then, here we are today. The weather's gorgeous outside. And, we would have been coming off of this past Saturday's track invitational for us, and just looking forward to what we could have done this spring. But we have to take a pause, and we've got to take a break and just kind of reset. So now this is our time to get as creative as we can to look after our student athletes and make sure that they're still engaged and connecting with one another. And it's just going to be a different outtake as we move forward.
And in those discussions, not only with your student athletes, but your coaches as well, and trying to maintain some sense of normalcy, even though we are not in normal times, how much has the aspect of mental health been a part of those discussions?
From a district-wide perspective, I think from a nationwide perspective, I think mental health, the social-emotional well-being of not just the students, because that is our priority, but we're talking about adults as well. Every one of us in what we have to do, we've now gone into a completely new mindset of how our days are operated. And so it is so important for us to maintain that connectivity. I think it's a benefit for our coaches and for our student athletes. To be able to hear one another's voice or text with one another or just in any form or fashion of that connection, I think there is something that does good for all of us. And, our building principals, they send out weekly messages. We do all calls. And this past Friday, everyone's message was about make sure you take time for yourself as well. We have spent a tremendous amount of time serving and volunteering and helping our community, and our community is giving back to us so well. We're so thankful and blessed about that. But, at some point you have to be able to take care of yourselves and sit back and pause and realize that, there's more to it than meets the eye. And so I think the mental component really does play a huge role for everyone.
And in being the point man for all of these coaches and all of these student athletes during this time, obviously you're trying to maintain some sensitivity in your day-to-day operation. Do you find yourself taking on maybe a little bit more of a counselor type role? Or do you sense coaches and student athletes are coming to you saying, hey, this is really hard right now?
The coaches have. I've not had very much contact with any of our student athletes. We're navigating that process through our coaches. And I've been able to put my head on their shoulder just as much as they put my head on theirs, and my staff as well. We do weekly check-ins, daily check-ins. With the technology with Google Hangout or Zoom, like I said, and then also the old-fashioned way, pick up the phone and call one another or text one another, and just, making sure we're all in this together. And, coaches, they all have the same thing. They all want that glimmer of hope of what's to come. We all do as humans, but, I think sometimes it's also a matter of they just want to hear somebody, hear somebody on the other end that's going through the same thing they are.
And the spring student athletes can still hold on to that glimmer of hope, because as of now, the spring sports season is just postponed. It's not been canceled. And so there's still hopefully light at the end of the tunnel in that regard. In your discussions with your coaches, how do you feel like these spring student athletes have adjusted to this situation where not only do they have to do their coursework and their academic work all online, but they also still have to train, because the possibility of a spring sports season has not been taken away from them. It's still possible to have that. How have they accepted this adjustment?
Well, we've encouraged every one of our coaches to put online workouts together, and it's all about getting outside, and yes, we got to practice social distancing, and we've got to make sure we're maintaining the rules and the regulations that are set forth to us and follow those directions. But they've got to stay that focus. And I was talking with OHSA Executive Director Jerry Snodgrass a couple days ago, and we were referring to spring sport conditioning. And one of the things I said to him, one group of student athletes right now that continue with their training regimen as they always would no matter what is a distance runner. So because you can see distance runners, they're going to go out and get a run. They're going to go out and run their 5, 6, 7 miles, whatever it is, get their mileage in. That's not the hurdle that we have to get over. It's the hurdle of the athlete that needs the tennis net to maintain the repetition, that needs the mound to maintain their arm strength or whatever, their velocity on throwing it, and continuing those processes and trying to make sure that those student athletes have that in their mind. A sprinter, a relay team, and track and field. One thing that we're missing out on is making sure that they have their timing, their exchange timing down, because they can't do that right now. So, just continuing to ask our coaches to think outside the box, give them ideas, promote ways for them to continue to get better. I think that they're doing that. And I think our kids are pretty resilient. I think all student athletes have a form of resiliency. And I think they're all going to find their own ways to create that level. When that time comes that we're going to be able to get back out on that playing field, we certainly are going to make sure they have all the opportunity necessary in front of them to be successful, to be prepared, to get the amount of reps that they're going to need. Nobody's just going to put them out there in a situation where they could risk any type of injury. too early or what have you. But we're going to put those processes in place.
And in going through those types of things and trying to stay as sharp as they can and do the things that they can, you talk about the distance runners, they're able to maintain maybe a closer sense of normalcy than some of the other ones, tennis players, baseball and softball, as you talked about as well. What's been the feeling in your mind from the entire community around these student athletes? Do they feel that support? Do they feel that note from the residents in the area that, hey, we're with you, we want you back out there as much as you want to be out there?
Oh, hands down. I think, sometimes things like this, they draw communities even closer, but you can sense that. And it's not just about getting back on that playing field. They want kids back in school. They want kids on those school buses. They want kids involved in spring plays or musicals or any of the types of things that we have just taken for, and granted isn't the right word, but just taken for normal day-to-day operation, because that's what a school district does. That's what education is about, what goes on during the school day and what goes on afterwards. There's an extreme passion for that, and Princeton displays that like no other. And I think we'll see a lot of tears and a lot of joy and a lot of excitement when we get back to resuming our old normal activity in the way that we know how.
And hopefully it's not too far off in the distant future. Although you talked about your conversations with Jerry Snodgrass of the OHSAA, they have already come out and basically said we're already thinking about what could happen in the fall. Would changes have to be made to that? You yourself right now, as we would be normally in the heart of the spring season, heading toward the summer, where are you at as far as looking ahead? Are you able to look ahead into the summer and into the fall as far as athletics goes at Princeton High School, or are you kind of like a lot of other people just going one day at a time trying to figure out where we are right now?
Well, I think it's both. We've, as far as scheduling and things of that effect go, we're ready for the fall. We're ready for what comes in front of us this spring. If we need to be, but what we're trying to do is maintain some form of consistency, of caution. We've like I said, with the group here in the office, we talk weekly or daily about, let's make sure our coaches are doing their off-season scheduling like they would. We've got to treat this. We are still working. We're still every day trying to make sure that we're connecting to the kids. And, let's just be prepared. So we've asked our coaches to go ahead and submit to us what your summer schedules are going to look like so that we can communicate that to our facility people and buildings and grounds and custodial, so that they're prepared, that they know what they're doing from a cleaning schedule. So we have those processes in place now. Moving into the fall, we've got the preseason parent meetings that we've set up for the end of July, so that we can target August 1st as the start date for the fall season and just kind of get everybody rolling. When we get contacted about various summer camp opportunities for different sports and things that are being promoted to go out there, whether it's the UC team soccer camp or what have you, we continue to share that information with our coaches. We ask our coaches to continue to share information back if they have what they're looking to do this off season as well. So we're trying to do those things, but we don't go too far into the future when we know that we have to take care of what we're doing today first.
And while you're trying to take care of that day-to-day thing, and maybe with an eye towards the future in so much as you can, with everybody having to basically stay at home, and I know essential people such as yourself, you're able to get to the office and get some work done there. How close to a normal operating day do you have on a daily basis? How much has this changed what you're able to maybe get accomplished or maybe not get accomplished compared to what we would see on a normal spring day?
Well, that's a great question, Jason. I'm going to go out on a limb and say we're right at 50-50. I think it's not about what we can get accomplished by working remotely. It's more about what we are able to find that we are accomplishing, because your day can get away from you real quick when you're in the office and You've got student athletes walking in, coaches walking in, administrators walking in, any various vendors wanting to meet and have those conversations. So all of that process changes it. So then you can really spend some time focusing on, okay, what are we wanting to look forward to right now? And, great example, we're in the process, Tamet Duckworth, our associate AD, she's in the process of looking at our coaches and student athlete handbooks, and if there's revisions that need to be made, and how they are correlated and tied directly into what goes on with our student handbooks. And so we're in the process of cleaning those items up. Our assistant AD, Matt Weber, he spent a lot of time trying to focus on the promotion of the student athletes right now, giving them, some type of ideas and trying to get creative social media wise of how we can continue to recognize them. And of course, with LaToya, we're working on closing out the end of the year, getting ready for next year, doing those types of things that we would do every day. But we now have some time that we can directly get those done, and it's a matter of prioritizing the order of that. So we want to all be back in the office because we're so used to that type of mode of operation. And being at home, you can kind of flex that to a point of, well, I may not have time to work on the handbook today because I'm going to jump on these online meetings now, or I could say I'm not going to do the online meeting today because I want to finish the handbook. Where when you're at the desk, you don't necessarily get that. If somebody comes in to see you, you take the time to see them.
Well, Joe, it sounds like you're doing everything you can to maintain as close to normal as possible, and we certainly appreciate you taking some time to talk with us today and update Vike Nation on how things are going. We certainly appreciate it. You and your family stay safe, and we'll reconvene again soon.
Absolutely, Jason. I appreciate it. You guys as well, and thank you guys for taking the time to do this today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That is Princeton Athletic Director Joe Roberts joining us here on the AD Podcast here on ESP Media, powered by Sidearm Sports on VikeNation.org.